Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where we chat with startup founders just like you from all over the globe. Each episode, we bring you practical and actionable tips to help you escape the cubicle and begin your own startup journey. Make sure you take notes. Take it away, Kevin.
Starting the recording. This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my special guest today is Robin Singhvi. Robin, thanks for joining me from the other side of the planet.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So if you and I met at like a networking event, how would you introduce yourself to me?
Yeah, so Kevin, given my circumstances over the past couple of years, I think there's only one way that I can imagine introducing myself to people is that I'm Robin Singhvi. I'm the founder of SmartCue, and that I've been at SmartCue for about a year and a half. A lot of people have told me that's probably not a good thing to associate yourself with your company or the company you founded, because you obviously have an identity as an individual. And I'm working on it, but right now I'm Robin from SmartCue, and that's all I am.
I spend 80 hours a week being that, so I don't have any time for anything else.
Yes.
But
Yes.
That is it. That's interesting. So tell us a little bit about SmartCue.
Yeah, for sure. So SmartCue, I started SmartCue about a year and a half ago. Founded it in October of 2021, and the problem we set out to solve is how do we ensure that sales reps at software companies are able to do better demos, right? How do we move them away from doing their vanilla one-size-fits-all demos that they end up doing a lot of the times, and that have them move away from that and towards demos that are consistent across the entire sales organization, so that you have a lot more predictability in terms of conversions, because you're doing consistent demos. And the second is, how do you ensure that the demos that you deliver to your buyers are tailored or customized to their specific pain point, right? So that was the problem that we set out to solve with SmartCue. And the form that it has taken today is SmartCue enables enterprise software sales teams to create a library of personalized product demos that will help them close their deals faster, because they're helping take their buyer to the aha moment or the problem solution fit faster. So that's what SmartCue does.
So this has been a while since this has happened, but you've said pretty succinctly what SmartCue does, and it has generated about 50 questions in my mind automatically. I'm trying to like go through my library of questions right now that I've gotten this jumble, and I'm thinking, okay, what's the first one I want to ask? I guess, is it, when you talk about demo, are you talking about the process, or are you talking about the mechanics of the actual presentation itself, or both?
Both. Yeah, both, right? So one is the process, that how do you set up demos, or set up, just like sales teams set up sales playbooks, can you set up demo playbooks that, hey, you know what, these are my buyer personas, these are my industries, these are my use cases. Now, can I have demos that are tailored specifically to each of them, so that whenever my sales rep needs to showcase my product to any of these personas or industries or use cases, they have the exact right demo that is relevant to that target audience, right? So that's the process. And the actual mechanics is also something SmartCue helps with, which is that, hey, it's not just a document that you have that you reference offline or before you do the demo. SmartCue actually, lives on the presenter's screen in real time when they're doing their demo, and cues them up contextually that, okay, because you're presenting to this buyer persona and you're trying to showcase this part or this feature, this module of your product, this is how you should message it. These are the use cases that you should highlight. These are the metrics or success stories that are going to be relevant to the buyer that you're presenting to, right? So it sort of lives on the presenter screen as they are doing live demos. Right. So you can visualize it as a really intelligent teleprompter, if you
Mm-hmm.
will,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's not meant to sort of make sales reps robotic,
Right.
right? You don't
Right.
read off of a script. It's just that, hey, you know what? You have complex products. You now have X number of customers. Now you've generated Y number of case studies, and you have all of these metrics that come out of it. It's humanly not possible for every sales rep to know every single detail about every single customer and every single metric, right?
Yep.
But those can be really important. And if, as a rep, you are able to pull those up when you're talking to specific prospects, then that helps you get far and quickly with the prospect, because now the prospect's like, okay, you actually get my problem.
Yep.
And you're establishing credibility that, hey, okay, I understand your problem. This is how we've actually solved it. These are the people we've solved it for, and these are the results. So no like dilly-dallying about that. Of course we can do it. We're great at it. No, it's like, we can do it, and we've done it this way for this customer, and these are the results, right? So um, this sort of construct, I think, becomes really important in the context of virtual demos, because when you think about it, traditionally, a lot of the sales reps that were really good could use their charisma, could use their
Mm-hmm.
rapport, could use their sort of relationship building skills to perhaps push deals through. But post the pandemic, you know, you as reps, you generally only have like a 30-minute Zoom call, which is cold, impersonal,
Yep.
doesn't really allow you to, look at body language and,
Plus, you
figure
spent
out.
10 minutes trying to get the tech to work.
I know, right? It's like, okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That's
Oh my
right.
God! Like, so it's jokes aside, right? But it is a challenge for a lot of salespeople now in general, right? Good or bad,
Yep.
or good or average. That with the Zoom call, you really have to ensure that you grab the audience's attention fast. And the way you do that in the construct in the context of software is that your prospect has come to you with a problem, or you have during discovery figured out that they have XYZ things that they are trying to solve for. So naturally, the way you can actually grab their attention and keep it is saying that, hey, this is the problem you came to me with. Here's how I solve it. Forget
Mm-hmm.
about everything else that I have. I have 10,000 other features, but the buyer does not care, right? They have their own problem. They have their own agenda. They're like, hey, I'm trying to solve this so that I look good in front of my boss, so that, we impact these metrics in our company, that we will grow X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Can you help me do that? And if you're able to reinforce the fact that, yes, you can, and you can do it well with your product, you're gonna accelerate your sales motion. And that's the conviction that we have behind SmartCue and how it can actually help sales teams.
So my experience has been that some of the best solutions were born out of a need that the founder actually had himself or herself.
Yes.
So
Yes.
was that the case here? Were you scratching your own itch and you think, oh, wait a minute, this has got some legs here?
100%, actually, Kevin. So I think a little bit of context will help here, right? So I spent about 12 years working for startups of various sizes in the US, and across all of them, I was part of the sales team. So like I was at the intersection of sales and product. And one of the KPIs for my team was to train or enable our sales teams with the right assets, the right collaterals, the right demos, the right decks, like all of the information that sales teams would need to be able to do a good job when they were trying to pitch our product or solution to our buyers. Now, we tried a number of different approaches to solve for this, whether it is deploying LMS solutions or product walkthrough tools, or recording videos, or even doing like quarterly upskilling or reskilling and certification sessions, right? But none of them really gave us results that lived up to our expectations. And I remember very clearly one of the big aha moments for me was during one of these sessions. I think we were deploying a tool, and one of the reps, she came up to me and she said that, hey, Robin, these tools and these processes that you're trying to implement don't really work for me because one is that they force me to change my existing workflow.
Mhm.
And second, they're not giving me results fast enough because, as sales teams, we live and die by the quarter.
Yep.
And if I am not able to make an impact with these tools in this quarter, then you have to know that I'm not going to use it, or you're going to have to try really hard to get me to use it. And for me, that was like a big aha moment. I'm like, oh yes, like, I mean, we're doing this for salespeople, but why are we not considering their very unique conditions,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you can't have them change their way of working. You can't tell them that this is a great tool and then that they can expect results 3 or 4 quarters down
Right.
the line, because they're like, well, we won't be here 3 or 4 quarters down the line if we're not able to perform now,
No.
right? So that was like a big aha moment for me. And then the second really was the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
right? When the pandemic hit, I think the acuteness of the problem of delivering better product demos was like, it really came to light, right? And then because virtual selling was now mainstream, right? It's not going away anywhere.
Right.
Now, a lot of buyers actually prefer getting on a Zoom call rather than coming out to meet you, or having you fly out and meet them, and
Right.
them having to arrange lunch or
Don't want to
meeting
host you for
rooms
half a day, and we may not like each other after the first 15 minutes.
Right. I mean, I think there's merit to that, right? I mean,
Yep.
there's cost savings to that. There's a
Mhm.
lot of efficiencies that come through, but then you lose that ability as a sales rep to build your relationships.
Yep.
And now you have this 30-minute Zoom call to really drive home the value of the solution that you're selling.
Mhm.
So for me, these two things really were the catalysts where I'm like, okay, I think there is something that we can really solve for here. And that if we're able to address this problem, then I think there is a real business here. So
Yep.
yeah, so it's been like a 10 odd year journey that I've like, this needs solving, right? We
10-year
tried a
overnight
bunch of different
success.
things. Yeah, right. Yeah.
If you're competing, and let's say it's similar products, if one of them, if their demo is spot on, and I mean, you're just knocking it out of the park, and the other one's kind of scrambling and going, kind of working through this. I'm just telling you about the features, and you may not need half of them. It's not adaptable. It's not adapted to my specific needs, and it's certainly not real time. That
Right.
there would be one that would certainly stand out over the other. But one thing that sticks out in my mind is the whole idea around, it's easy to sell something that I can show you metrics like right up front. I can show, like ad spend. I can say, if you spend this amount, I can show you this is the ROI over the course of time. But this is almost like you're going to have to trust me a little bit on the ROI of this, because it's a little more difficult to kind of quantify. Is that true? And is there a learning curve when you're trying to sell this product to sales teams?
Here's a quick word
So
from our sponsor, Pod Brand Media.
As a business owner, new sales leads are essential. At Podbrand Media, we create a branded podcast for you to generate those leads by interviewing your best potential clients as subject matter experts. Not only creating great rapport, but also great content to share in your industry. Affordable and effective. Contact us today at podbrandmedia.com to learn more.
yeah, so Kevin, that's a really great question, because you're absolutely right. A sale is not made just because of a great demo. It plays a part, sure, but it is not the only reason a sale goes through, right? And for us, where we've seen the most traction or purchase is in organizations where their sales motion is well defined. So
Mhm.
larger enterprises where they have playbooks, where they have specific teams doing specific things, that's where the value of a product like SmartCue is really easier to showcase, But if you're a relatively newer or smaller sales organization where you may be doing great in terms of conversion rates and things like that, but if you're not actually tracking a lot of those metrics, then it becomes, like you rightly said, a little bit harder to justify what a good demo is contributing to the velocity of your sales motion, right? So that is I think that is a very valid concern, and we've definitely encountered that, and we've been iterating and trying to figure out that, okay, one, where is it that we can immediately showcase value? And in our case, it's slightly larger organizations or slightly mature sales organizations, right? And we're also working on things like metrics that, hey, you know what, is there a correlation between the number of demos done or the type of specific demos done to the outcome and the velocity or the speed of that outcome, right? Are our clients able to see that, hey, you know what, by doing these specific demos, we've been able to close deals X% faster, right? We're still getting there because we're fairly new and early. We actually officially launched to the public only in last September, so about 4 months ago. So we're working through those metrics. But I love how insightful that question was. Thank you for asking that.
Well, that's why I get paid the big bucks, is to ask great questions on the podcast.
That was a great one.
Yeah, I'm going to write that one down. But it's interesting in such a short period of time that you are already. It's almost like you like accelerated the launch phase, and now you're in kind of the iteration phase. You're like, we're testing and we're adjusting, very early in the process, seemingly. But what are you focusing on? What's the big rock you're trying to move with SmartCue this year?
Sure. So you're very generous, Kevin, in saying that we're at like this stage where we're exploding and iterating. But I think honestly, as a startup, we're still in that 0 to 1 phase where we have customers, sure, we have some revenue.
I was talking more behavior than like you're saying, we're already trying to figure out where the impact is, where's the value add type thing. And I'm thinking that's amazing that you're already looking at that and you're not just going, okay, we just now know where the bathrooms are in everybody's office.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey, right, Kevin? Like, I think we've iterated quite a bit on the product side as well. Like, I mean, our first version of the product was absolute garbage. And, we sold it to people and we quickly realized that, oh my God, this is not what people signed up for. And we really need to go back to the drawing board. But we got a lot of great feedback from people about that as well. And that allowed us to refine what we're doing. And then when we launched it in September, that's when we started to really see some uptake and see real value provided to customers. And that's when we started to be like, okay, there is value, but like, how do we quantify it? How do we make it real? And then how do we continue to add and enhance the value that we're providing, right? And there's obviously as an early stage startup, there's a bunch of things, but 2023, I think it's going to be the year that we kind of really refine our go-to-market, right? That how do we actually scale? And we're also debating internally. There's initiatives already underway where it's like, okay, we can either go horizontal or we can figure out based on our current customers and the industry that they're in or the specific, bucket that they fall under, and then just go out and target those people because we have some legs in terms of, results and referenceable clients which fit this particular segment. So let's go after that, right? Yep. And I'm not a marketer or a growth person. So that's the muscle memory that I'm trying to build this year. That, okay, how does this actually work, right? Okay, you first define your segment, you've defined your segment. Now, how do we go find all the right individuals and the right companies that fall in that segment? How do I actually approach them? Do I just send them an email? Do I send them a LinkedIn? Do I go meet them? Do I make a call? Do I reach out to them on Twitter? How many times?
Right.
Right. So all of those things, like, do I go to specific conferences? Which ones do I go to? Do I have a booth or do I not? Right? Do I do SEO? Do I do content? Do I do podcasts? Do I do, do I do
Of
videos?
course you do
So
podcasts. I mean,
yeah, right.
I can answer that one. That's right. Check that one. That's right.
Yeah. So really, as an organization, that's what we're trying to figure out, because what we really want to do in 2023 is have very meaningful revenue, right? That of course, given the macroeconomic situations and the headwinds that most businesses are facing, I think we're actually really well positioned to help businesses essentially do more with less, because that's what a lot of businesses are trying to focus on. That, hey, how do we bring about efficiencies? You hear about, unfortunate, but you hear about like job cuts and things like that. But the underlying thesis there is that everyone's trying to bring in more efficiencies, do more with less. And we're like, okay, so we know that that's happening. How do we capitalize on that? How do we position ourselves? How do we insert ourselves into conversations where these discussions are going on, and then showcase to them that, hey, you know what, we can actually help you bring efficiencies. So instead of like perhaps cutting people, how do you ensure that their output is increased or multiplied? And that's where we come in. So like, trying to bring about that element of efficiency and making sure that we are in those conversations, that people know of us, right? So that may seem a little bit big picture, but I think that's really the focus for 2023, because 2022 was all about product and refining the product, getting the product right, and sort of figuring out where our value proposition is, what sort of value are we adding. And this year is all about like, okay, now let's take this value to the users who will actually appreciate that.
I think that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm putting kind of the first half of the conversation and the second half of the conversation together, and I want to kind of augment what you just said a little bit. It's not just increased efficiency. It's increased efficiency that has the outcome of increased effectiveness, and there's like you raise the bar for sales too. You can be efficient and not have any additional revenue. But I think you have, you touched on the efficiency, but I think the outcome is you're going to sell more.
Yes.
Because your demos are slicker. They're more professional. They're more real time. They're more usable. They're more user friendly, so to speak. So, right. It's going to be an exciting year. And I'm going to have to circle back with you in about 18 months and see how things have gone. But
perhaps sooner. Who knows?
Yeah,
Kevin?
Perhaps that's right. I mean,
yeah.
You're throwing the playbook out the window. You're doing things earlier in the process. So I love that. So I'm going to throw a little bit of a curve at you here, because I'd like to catch people off guard with this question. But when you were a child,
all right, I'm gonna ask you to edit it out first off. No, I'm kidding.
No edits, but we are live. That's right. No, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's a funny question, and it is a curveball, because I think my answer is kind of goofy, but I'm gonna try and be honest and authentic here, right? So I come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Professional cricket player.
I think that is the dream of every Indian, right? I think that supersedes anything else.
Like every South African wants to play rugby. There you go.
There you go. Exactly, right? So after being a cricket player, the second dream profession that I had was I wanted to be a cashier at a supermarket.
Wow.
And
set that bar high.
I know. It was kind of it sounds weird now, but when I look back, I feel that was an interesting thing to want to be, because when I think back, what I realized was that in my mind, being a cashier is not just about, like, you think of cashier like, okay, you're giving out change and that's kind of it. But I used to sit at the cashier at the store that my dad used to work at, and I loved it, because what I ended up doing was I would make conversation with the people who were checking out, And then inevitably, I used to set myself, or like my dad or someone would challenge me, like, okay, can you by the end of the day ensure that you've sold like these 5 Snicker bars, right? To whoever's checking out. And I got really good at it, right? And I loved it. I was like, all right, you know what? This is too easy. Give me something harder. And so for me, it was not just the counting of the cash and be like, all right, I can get it right. I can count the green fast, and always give out the right change. But I can also increase, in today's startup terms, I'm like, I'm going to increase your ACV, or I'm like, going to increase your order value.
Yep.
And so that, that is why I loved sitting at the cashier. Like I used to interact with so many people, and then the regulars knew that I was a regular, and then we'd exchange banter, and I was like, okay, if he's a regular, he's got to buy more. And why is he need buying more, right? And I know what he buys now. So if he has not bought what he typically buys, I should know that. And then I realized that having that kind of relationship with people, it really excited me, right? And I think that mentality, I think, is carried through.
No doubt about it.
In the startups that I worked at, I think the reason I really rebelled in these sort of hybrid sales and product roles is because I was playing like this. I was essentially playing quarterback, where I'm like, okay, you know what? We're trying to sell something which is a little bit out of the box. So I got to convince the customer that it's right for them. I got to convince the salesperson that they should have confidence when we're selling this, and then I got to take the product team into confidence and be like, hey, you know what? We can build this. It's okay, right? Let's build this, because we have this one customer, but I think we'll get 10 more, right? So it was so much more than just knowing the tech, but it was more about building these relationships across teams. So when someone asks me this question, I kind of say it proudly, because I'm like, yeah, if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would know how much I enjoyed being around people.
Nothing's wasted. I mean, in our historical economy, our life economy, nothing is wasted. And I can see this actually living itself out, in whatever the current version of Robin is. But it's, you've led the company for what, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe. It's fairly early days in your founder seat, but tell me one or two just really quick kind of one-liner things that you've learned that, man, I wish I would have known this when I launched day one, because it would have made my life so much easier, that you think would be beneficial to people that are a little behind you in the journey.
Yeah. So, in addition to being a solo founder, I'm also a first-time founder. And so one of the things that I did not do, which I wish I'd done, was delegate more sooner, right? When I'm building a team, what I failed to see, honestly, is that everyone that's in the team has actually bought into your vision, because you're not an established company. You're not like paying them top dollar or anything of that sort. I've sold them on a vision, and they bought into it. So the sooner I sort of let them have that autonomy and that ownership, the faster it actually frees me up to do the things that are perhaps most important, or the things that only I can do, right? So it took me a while to let go and be like, okay, this I'm delegating to you. You own it, right? And I didn't do that soon enough, to be very honest, right?
That's a pretty common thread in founders. What's another nugget that kind of sticks out in your mind?
I mean, so when you're building a software business, it can be tough, right? And of course, you're bound to make mistakes along the way. But one mistake that I see, myself included, and a lot of other software leaders make, is not identifying and targeting a specific customer segment, right? It's like trying to sell ice to Eskimos. It's not going to work. So you need to know who your customers are, what they need, how your product can solve their problems. Otherwise, I would just be spinning my wheels and not getting very far, right? So in my case, I actually, I had those conversations and things like that. But the mistake that I made is I tried to build first and then have conversations to an extent, right? I wish that I had not built anything. I wish that I just like taken my idea that was on the back of a napkin, or just, like a nice image or a prototype, and then just gone out and spoken to more people. Validated the problem, validated my approach to the problem, validated if that problem is, solving a real problem for them, or is it a nice to have. And then, what I definitely will do whenever I start up again, or perhaps when we launch new features or whatever, is build a wait list, like get people to pre-order, right? There is no better validation of the problem that you're trying to solve than when people pay you without you, with the promise of delivery in sometime in the near future.
Right.
So I mean, I wish I'd done more of that.
Those are two really I think they're salient. I think they're pretty broad. I mean, it's not just specific to, SaaS development or whatever. It's I mean, it can go across industry, and those truths are universal. But tell me, Art, it's interesting, and you disclose what you want to disclose, but are you trying to bootstrap this, or have you gotten some backing?
So we actually did raise a very small round earlier in 2022. We're in 2023 now, and a very small round. And really the idea was that I was bootstrapping it, but I was like, okay, I need to challenge my ideas and validate it. And the only reason I raised that money is so that it wasn't just like, hey, Robin, great idea, go do it. It's like, okay, are there people who have enough conviction and belief in the idea as much as I do, and are able to back it up with some money, right? So we did raise a little bit of money, and we're actually in the process of raising some more money now, this quarter, hopefully. And the idea is that this time we want to raise these funds to actually scale faster, right? Go out and preach the do more with less message that we have to more people, and get
kind of figure it out. Now let's scale it. Yeah. And you mentioned that's kind of what you want to do in 2023. So it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, just not even related to a specific topic, but it talked about, this guy was saying, do not do a pre-seed round, and I'm thinking, so that's an interesting question. Would you do it again?
Would I raise that money again?
The initial money, would, like, if you could roll back the clock 18 months or whatever, would you do the same thing you did to get to where you are today?
I would, without a doubt. Like, I mean, I'm really grateful for my investors and my backers. They've been great partners, and the terms that I got, I was happy with them, and that's really what matters, right? I think there's a lot of pundits out there on Twitter and stuff like that who will make these one-line statements that, raising pre-seed right now is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it's all relative, to be honest, right? It's like, where are you in that journey?
You are exactly right.
What is the right, dilution for you as a person? Because at a pre-seed level, there's less of a company and more of the founder.
Yeah.
Right. And so what is it that you are comfortable with? And so I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, right or wrong time to be raising money. It's like, do you have a clear idea of why you need the money? What are you going to do with it? And are the terms being offered, do they work for you now? And I think it's absolutely fine that in 2 or 3 years down the line, when your business is doing really well, you look back at your cap table like, oh my God, I gave up too much money or too much equity in the company. That's okay, because what that means is you actually have a real business.
Yeah, it is relative. That's exactly right. I'd love 10% of $1 billion versus 80% of 100,000. That's right.
Exactly, right? So
yeah, no doubt.
To each his own, to be honest. And for me, I think if I can find the right partners, if I can find the right backers, I would be very inclined to raise another round of money.
Yeah. Robin, I am have thoroughly enjoyed the chat today, and man, I could just once again we could just talk all day long, and I could forget we were recording. But We do want to make sure that, this is a listenable episode in a commute. And so
Yes.
as we wrap up today, what's one thing that maybe I haven't asked you about that you'd just like to close us with? And then also on the tail end of that, say, this is where you can find me.
Sure. So, you actually asked me about some of the sort of mistakes that people made. But like, if I had to give one piece of advice, I think to other founders, Kevin, it really would be that don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think as founders, we it's just the nature of fear of failure, fear of not knowing. We tend to go into a shell. I know I do from time to time, but there are people who are rooting for you, who are championing you, whether it's your investors, your advisors, your mentors, your friends, your family. And the more you ask, the faster you will grow, the fewer mistakes you will perhaps make.
Yeah. And
this journey really of building a startup and scaling a startup, I think is more enjoyable when you share it. Right. I think I definitely love for early stage founders to sort of, really internalize that advice. And yeah, to your question about where you could find me, I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. My handles are my first name, last name, which is Robin Singhvi. We also have a fledgling YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@GetSmartCue. And then, I run a weekly newsletter on Substack, which is smartcue.substack.com. And of course, our website is getsmartcue.com.
Well, Robin, thank you again. As you had that closing thought about, asking for help. I mean, the thought that came to mind was, OPM. We generally talk about OPM being other people's money, but I think it also applies to other people's minds. That mind share can save you so much time and effort and money and mistakes and losing good people and all the things that other people already know that you don't have to relearn every lesson. So what a way to wrap us up today. Robin, we wish you the best in the future, and thank you again for just playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Kevin. I enjoyed our conversation and, really great chatting with you.
We hope you heard some great takeaways. Make sure you follow up with our guests today and show them the support they deserve. As always, thank you for listening and playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide.